Good morning, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, let's get into the news this Tuesday morning. And it looks like something weird is happening out in the state of Oregon. I don't know if the rest of the state's probably woken up to the disastrous policies of the governor there in Oregon, and everything that's happened there with Portland and Antifa and all the violence that takes place on the current day basis there, and the lunacy that's happening in the school system. Maybe the majority of the state is finally waking up to the fact that they don't want a communist governor. Well, whatever is going on, it looks like polling starting to shift in the state of Oregon. Shifting from leans Democrat to a toss-up with a Republican. So let's kind of take a look what we have here. It says, wow, Cook. Political report moves Oregon governor's race from leans Democrat to toss-up. Interesting. We recently pointed out that people in Oregon are so tired of the crime in Portland that the state might elect a Republican governor. That might sound unbelievable to some, but Cook Political Report has just moved to raise from governors, and Oregon from leans Democrat to a toss-up. This could actually happen. And it would be a political earthquake if it did. This coming from the Political Report here. Thanks to the presence of a well-funded independent candidate, private and public polling has shown the GOP nominee former State House Minority Leader Christine Grahn neck and neck with Democrat former House Speaker Tina Kotek. Former States and Senator Betsy Johnson, a biocycle former Democrat turned independent, threatens to act as a spoiler. There's a clear trend, both Kotek and Iran's pulling into low 30s while Johnson has yet to pull higher than the mid-20s though. She has argued that white will rise post-Labor Day anyway. While the polling can often overstate the percentage of a third-party candidate who receives Johnson's no ordinary week presents on the ballot. She's just not. She is not just at fundraising partiality with Durant and Kotek. But she's raised the most money so far in the cycle with almost $11 million brought in of September 15th. She's gotten $1.75 for the Nike founder Phil Knight, who's contributed to the GOP races in previous states. Durant and has brought in $9.1 while Kotek has brought in nearly $8 million. Both the Republican Governors Association Democratic Governors Associations have given significant amounts directly to each of their candidates. Johnson has spent most of the most and earliest on TV ads. So far $6 million either already aired or reserved. According to this poll here, Dressing has reserved or spent almost $3.4 million. Microtech has $3.2. Both Republicans and Democrats point to Johnson still married and third place despite her heavy spending as evidence that she has a ceiling that is lower than their floors. We fully expect whoever wins this race may not even top 40%, and the victor could end up with a parallel or at as low as 35%. This is amazing. News of what we are seeing right now happen in Oregon. This will be a massive news of the ranch pulls it off. Hat tip to the Legal Insurrection blog. So yeah, fantastic. This is great news coming out of Oregon. It gives me hope that maybe the whole nation isn't crazy and just dipped into this, let crime flourish everywhere. And hopefully they will elect the governor there in the state of Oregon. So if you are in Oregon, if you're a resident of Oregon, let me know in the comments down below how it's shaping up down there on the ground. Obviously I don't live there, so I don't know all the ins and outs of the political machine there in Oregon. But let me know in the comments down below if you have more insight on it. I would love to know more about it. And then, Mr. Frank Luntz, Kevin McCarthy's best friend, his pen pal, not exactly people's favorite conservative, if you could even call him that. But at the end of the day, Frank Luntz provides an incredibly useful service. You may not like the guy, but you could still like the job that he does. And I'm not talking about the journalism work that he does. I'm talking about the focus groups ahead of the 2020 election. We covered so many Franklin's focus groups, and it gave us great insight into how voters were thinking, especially suburban moms during the 2020 election season. We came to the conclusion that suburban women are most likely going to steer this election. And that turned out to be pretty true. A lot of moderate swing voting, suburban moms had a hard time supporting Donald Trump because they thought that he was too rambunctious. And they thought that Biden would be a safe option. Of course, that probably didn't play out the way that people thought it would. But the point that I'm making is that the Franklin's focus groups gave us key insight into how people were thinking, and once again, I have to admit Frank Luntz delivers, and it especially delivers, because what we're hearing in his most recent focus group ahead of the 2022 midterms is extremely bad for the Democrats. There's that famous Bill Clinton quote, "It's the economy stupid and well, Democrats in their current hopium and acopian." States think that the Supreme Court Dobbs decision is the end-all and be-all, and is all they need to turn this election around. Well, reality once again kicks in as the number one issue remains finances, the economy and standard of living, and let's just say the current political environment or sentiment that we're seeing is very likely to lead to world change. Let me show you guys what's going on here. We've got some very interesting stuff to cover. So let's roll the tape. Alright, folks, so here's the main headline for the video. Bipartisan focus group agrees that Biden's America is a disaster. Pollster Frank Luntz joined Morning Joe on Friday to discuss Americans' views on the current state of the country, the focus group's assessment of Biden. Let's convene the focus group to discuss the economy and their perception of where America stands today. When shared last night, I did go on the queue and spent an hour interviewing people. And I've been very depressed. And I know people will laugh at that. But if you listen to what I listen to, hear what I hear from the American people, it's very upsetting, the level of division, the level of anger and frustration having a country continue to go higher to a point you never thought it could reach. The focus group included a nationwide sample of voters, half of whom voted for President Trump, half for Biden. They were asked if they think that Washington understands the economic situation. The responses were a brutal assessment of the Biden administration. And so clearly the word grim applies. Please explain to me hopium copian Democrats during a midterm election in a failed president's first term with the economic outlook, the way that it is in voter sentiment, the way that it is, how is it again, the Democrats are going to score a landslide victory? It's the economy, stupid people are barely keeping afloat, and it's across the middle class. And you mean to tell me, just baseline analysis here, that all of these regular middle-class American voters are going to look at their ballots and think to themselves, you know what I need, you know what America needs. You know what I should vote for, the same thing that's currently going on? No. And this is what I mean by this kind of environment leads to one specific sentiment, and that sentiment is change. After 8 years of George Bush and the endless wars that begun, the scandal and then leading to a recession, it was pretty much a no-brainer that Democrats were going to take over. Then after 8 years of Obama's stagnant economy, once again, all the failed promises, the failure to deliver real tangible results to the middle class, Donald Trump was elected. And now we essentially have a continuation, or honestly a mirroring of the Jimmy Carter era, and it's not going to lead to a Democrat resurgence. Clearly it's going to lead to the exact opposite. The shift is rightward, regardless of what all these phony polls are telling you. I mean, for instance, how many stories like this have we covered? 2 lifelong Democratic judges switch parties running for re-election, as Republicans' Democrat Latino leader goes off on smug liberals and cheers on DeSantis. We have seen so many Democrats over the last 2 years either publicly criticize the Democrat Party, cheer on Republicans, or the strongest stance that we've seen denouncing the Democrats entirely leaving the party and joining the Republican Party. Name a single event where it's happened in the opposite direction, Republicans leaving the party and turning into Democrats. Liz Cheney is probably the best example you could think of, but even then, she may not be a Republican, but she's certainly not a Democrat either. Democrats and, of course, Joe Biden have seen a little bit of a resurgence in the polling data. But as expected, it's extremely short-lived. Biden's job approval is now tanking again just weeks ahead of the midterms. The most recent Ipsos poll shows that Biden's approval rating among independents hits its lowest level with 25%. Again, please explain to me, in a political environment where the current president representing his party has only 25% support with independents, how are Democrats going to win? It fundamentally does not make any sense, especially with the top issue being the economy at 30%. The top 3 issues are the economy, crime, and immigration. This specific poll, these are all issues where Democrats are severely underwater. The issue of abortion being the top issue for only 7% of voters. We know the top issues, we know what's plaguing Americans right now. And the Democrats' strategy right now is more women's rights and ultra-mega fascist threat. I mean, you even heard it in the focus group. People stating that not only is the economy a problem, but that the country is becoming more divided. And the Democrats' strategy is to completely ignore the economy, and ignore economic issues, and fiscal responsibility, and to continue driving a wedge in the division issue. Americans want a strong economic recovery and fiscal responsibility. They want clear answers on the energy crisis and on the housing affordability crisis. And of course, the inflation crisis, and the Democrats are saying, well, the best I could give you is my January 6th insurrection. Bad policy and fiscal irresponsibility has led to an inflation crisis. Best we could do is more government handout and more government spending. I mean, it's stupid. I don't trust the polls. And top pollster Robert Haley from Trafalgar Group chimes in on what he thinks is going on here. Tell pollster claims that Biden's rhetoric has created submerged voters, who will drive the 2022 election. Submerged voters meaning people who are intimidated and don't want to admit that they're going to vote for Donald Trump in the future, or don't want to admit that they're going to vote Republican in the 2022 election, is the same thing we saw in 2016 and 2020, where there's so much propaganda in such a shame campaign targeted towards voting Republican. Conservatism, Fox News, you name it, the whole deplorables phenomenon that a lot of people aren't showing up on the polls, people who plan on voting Republican again. If Joe Biden has a 25% approval rating with independents, and if the majority of people that we're seeing right now plan on voting Republican in the next election, and the voter registration trends are trending all towards Republicans in the millions, like 2+ million across the country net gains for Republican registration, and Democrats are losing voters. How does it make any sense that Democrats are going to overperform, and that this time is different and Republicans aren't going to overperform the polling data? Give me a break. It's the economy, stupid. It's the driving issue. And all these Democrat distractions might give them some gains. But I don't think it's going to be significant enough to change history with a weak president like this in his first term. The first off-season midterm election is going to be a referendum on his leadership, and that is clearly still signaling a massive red tsunami. The voter sentiment is clear whether Democrats want to accept it or not. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching the video.